ॐ नमो नारायणाय। ॐ नमो नारायणाय।
Om Asmad Gurubhyo Namaha, Asmad Paramagurubhyo Namaha, Asmad Sarvagurubhyo Namaha. So we're continuing on with Prameya Ratnavali by Baladev Vijayabhushana, and we came up to paragraph 13. So it says in the Svetashvatara Upanishad, just got mentioning that that there was a consideration of a passage from Mundaka Upanishad, but then actually the passage comes in the Svetashvatara Upanishad. So here we're talking about Svetashvatara Upanishad 3.9. In Svetashvatara Upanishad 3.9, we have the following statement showing that the all-pervadingness is an attribute of the form of God. That one exists in heaven and stands there upright as a tree. By that person, all this is pervaded. Note that one Lord Hari exists in heaven, bowed to by all, but bending to none, like a straight tree that knows no bowing. Here, the word person, coupled with the expression dwelling in heaven, shows that the Lord has a form. The next sentence, by this all is pervaded, shows that the Lord, though having a form, is still all-pervading. And the next verse says, though dwelling in heaven, the expression, he pervades all, shows that the Lord is both all-pervading as well as having a form simultaneously. Because of this, it is possible for him to appear simultaneously to all who meditate on him in whatever region of the universe they may be, and who all see him in one and the same form. Note, the next quotation is from the Bhagavata Purana, also indicates that the very embodied form of Sri Krishna is all-pervading, though it appeared like an ordinary human form to his mother and others. Paragraph 14. In the 10th skanda of the Bhagavad Purana, we have the following. He who has neither inside nor outside, neither front nor back, but who is simultaneously both inside and outside of the world, in its front and in its back, yea, who is the world itself, him considering as her son, as a mortal child, him the changeable and immutable, the cowherdess Yashoda, bound by a cord, as if he was an ordinary infant. This is referring to the Damodar Leela, where Mother Yashoda tried to bind Krishna with a cord, with a rope, for being naughty. Okay. So in the Gita, also, chapter 9, verses 4 and 5, we also have the following. By me, all this world is pervaded in my unmanifest aspect. All beings have root in me. I am not rooted in them. Nor have beings their root in me. Behold, my sovereign yoga, the support of beings, yet not rooted in beings, myself, their efficient cause. The word yoga in the above verse means the energy or Shakti of the Lord, as is explained in the following. There is an infinite energy, Shakti, in the Lord, to which the term yoga is applied. And in the opinion of the knowers of the truth, yoga means here this power of the Lord that reconciles all contradictions and makes impossibles possible. Note, with my subjective form dwelling in the innermost recesses of all, I pervade this universe. All beings have root in me because I support them all. I am not rooted in them because they do not support me, nor do I support these beings as the water is supported in a jar, but they are supported by me as the moon in the sky by the mere force of my will. And hence, I say, nor have these beings rooted me. This is possible through my sovereign yoga, through my limitless energy or Shakti. The word yoga here is derived from yujate, durgateshu karyeshu anena, that by which one can perform the most impossible feats. Paragraph 15. Note, in paragraph 10, so we have it. So in the chat, is this form particular Vishnu form? No. Is there one that is everything? No. Everywhere. We're talking about all pervasive. Yeah. Can you kindly explain efficient cause and subjective form? Well, the efficient cause is the cause. There are two causes. There's the efficient material cause. So the material, for the example in the scriptures, usually is of a potter and pots that he makes out of clay. So the potter is the efficient cause, and the clay is the material cause. So the Lord is the efficient cause. So in some forms of Vaishnavism, like Madhvas, Dvaita Vedanta, they believe that the Lord is the efficient cause. He creates the universe, but he doesn't create it out of himself. So there's a nimitta karna and upadana karna, the efficient and the material cause. So he's the efficient cause, but he's not the material cause. Subjective form just means form. So I don't know what I can say about that. Anyhow, paragraph 15. Note that in paragraph 10, it was said that Sri Krishna is the highest because he possesses intelligence, bliss, and the rest. The author now explains what is meant by the phrase "and the rest," or Adi, in Anandat Vadi. So it includes omniscience, blissfulness, mindfulness, friendliness, teachership, saviorhood, and beauty. And he gives a quote here from Mundaka Upanishad 119. By the phrase "and the rest" is meant omniscience, as we find in Mundaka Upanishad 119. He who is all-knowing and all-acquiring. The phrase "and the rest" also means blissfulness, as we find in Taittiriya Upanishad 2.4.1. It also includes blissfulness, as is said in Taittiriya Upanishad, Anandam Brahmano Vidvan Na Bibeti Kutas Chana Iti. Usually it's said Kutas Chaneti, but anyway, knowing the bliss of Brahman, he is never afraid. It also includes masterhood, friendliness, teachership, and saviorhood, as we find in the Svetashvatara Upanishad texts 3:17, 4:18, and 6:16. The master of all, the ruler of all, the refuge of all, and the friend of all, from Svetashvatara Upanishad 3:17. Thus, worship by the jivas, where there flows forth from him the ancient primordial wisdom, which is the essential attribute of jivas, but which is beclouded so long as the jivas do not turn their face towards the Lord. And that's Svetashvatara 4:18. He is the cause of bondage, the existence and liberation of the world. This phrase and the rest included as sweetness and beautifulness, as we find in Gopal Upanishad or Gopal Tapani Upanishad, right? As follows: meditate on the Lord as having eyes like full-blown white lotus, a body of the blue color of clouds, garments of lightning with two arms, and adorned with the symbol of silence, and having a garland round his neck, which is made up of all the spheres of heavenly orbs. Gopal Tapani Upanishad, page 183 of the Anandashram series. Paragraph 16. Note, in the preceding sections, it has been said that the Lord has the attributes of all-pervadingness, intelligence, bliss, omniscience, blissfulness, masterfulness, friendliness, teachership, saviorhood, and beautifulness. Now arises the question, are these attributes of the Lord Hari separate from him or not? Right? Because an attribute, a thing and an attribute, a thing has an attribute, but is the attribute separate from the Lord, or is it part of the Lord? They cannot be separate from him, for the Shruti says, and he quotes here, Katha Upanishad 4:14, He who sees the quality of the Lord as separate from the Lord runs down quickly into darkness. Nor can they be non-separate from the Lord, because they cannot be separate from the Lord and they cannot be non-separate from the Lord. They cannot be separate from the Lord. They cannot be non-separate from the Lord, because the Lord is said to be nirguna, or without attribute. Okay, so the word nirguna is not usually translated by Vaishnavas as without attribute. It's usually translated by Vaishnavas as without material attributes, with all auspicious attributes, which means without any negative attributes. So this point is raised and answered in the following verse. The attributes are not separate from the substance possessing these attributes. Though there is no difference between the quality and the thing qualified, yet owing to the particular condition, vishesha, shesha means speciality, there is an appearance of difference, just as time, though one, is spoken of having many parts, and even the wise use phrases like the time always exists. Note, the discussion on this point in the Vedanta Sutras 3.2.31 makes this clear. The two, the Lord and his attributes, are spoken of separately, though they are essentially one, just as the water and its waves are spoken of separately as two, though it is all one water. The difference arises from this vishesha, or speciality. Therefore, the Lord, who is ever joy and bliss, is said to be joyful and blissful, and to have a body of all delight. All these qualities of the Lord are eternal, and consequently, that body of the Lord is also eternal. Though there is no distinction, vishesha or speciality, strictly so called, here between the quality and the qualified, yet for conventional purposes such as a vishesha speciality distinction is recognized and spoken of as such. If this convention, vishesha distinction, be not admitted, then the sentences like the following would also be absurd, for they are really tautologies when logically analyzed. So the being exists, the time always exists, the space is everywhere. All these sentences are logical tautologies, but they are of constant use and good as conventions. Nor can it be said that such a usage is erroneous and is based upon delusion. For the phrase, I think, I'm not sure what this is, the benes, the beings exist, convey, the beings exist as true an information as a sentence, the jar exists. For there is no subsequent experience which sublates this knowledge, nor is the sentence, the beingness exists, is a superimposition or a figurative speech like Devadatta is a lion. For we can never say of beingness that it does not exist, as we can say of Devadatta that he is not a lion. Nor can it be said that such a usage is a natural one, though there is no concrete content of any substance in these sentences, like the beingness exists. The fact, so in other words, the point being made here is that there are statements, there may be statements in the scriptures, and their statements are compared to this statement, the beingness exists. Of course, something, the existence exists, basically, is what you're trying to say. Naturally, it's self evident, and therefore it's different from other statements like Devadatta is a lion, because Devadatta may not be a lion, right? Or there may be a lion called Devadatta, but anyway, mostly we talk about Devadatta as being a person and not a lion. So the very fact that such usage is natural shows that in these sentences also there is a vishesha or speciality. The existence of such vishesha is suggested by the illustration of the water flowing down a hill. The man who makes a distinction between the Lord and his attributes goes down to darkness like the waterfalls on a mountaintop. In that verse, there is a prohibition of all difference between the Lord and his attributes, which are described there. In the absence of such conventional difference, there cannot be the possibility of the relationship of quality and qualified, merely because there are many qualities. The category called Vishesha, the specific attribute, therefore exists, even here, though it is not here separate from the substance, but still has a particular function of its own. So just because we say that a quality and a substance have no separate existence, it doesn't mean that the category of quality and the category of substance have separate functions. So for we have said above that the Vishesha here, though not separable from the substance, that is the Lord, has a function of its own with regard to that substance. Therefore, the existence of Vishesha is proved here also, as it is an invariable concomitant of the substance to which it appertains. Paragraph 17. Thus, in the Narada, it is said in the Narada Pancharatra, the Lord is an entity having perfect and faultless qualities. He is the Atman, the self and free from all the attributes of the body consisting of insentient matter. He too has a body, hands, face, stomach, etc., but all of pure bliss, not matter. The Atman is everywhere and always devoid of internal differences also. In this case, when we say the Atman is everywhere, we're talking about the Paramatman. We're talking about the Supreme Atman, not the individual soul. Paragraph 18. Now is the eternal union of the Lord and Lakshmi. See verse 10. In Vishnu Purana 1.8.15, it is thus said, that mother of the world, Shri, meaning Shri Devi or Lakshmi Devi, is the eternal energy of Vishnu and is indissolubly united with the Lord. As Vishnu is all-pervading, so is she also, O best of the twice born. Now, of course, there's a lot of discussion about how after the Shruti or the Vedas have been saying that basically this is a mark of God, or God only is all-pervading, how Lakshmi can also be all-pervading just like he is. So here we have a statement in Vishnu Purana like this. So the question is, and we may find also in the Agamas some statements like this. So the question is, how is she all-pervading like that? Because there may be a way that she can be all-pervading, but in a slightly different way than the Lord. The Lord is has got all-pervasiveness. It means Vyapaka Shakti. He's all-pervading in the sense of his Swarupa Vyapti, right? So he himself, his self is all-pervading. All other beings, including Lakshmi, it's explained by certain Vaishnavas, that they can be all-pervading by their qualities. For instance, their quality of all-expansive knowledge. They can be all-pervading. So some Vaishnavas believe that Shri is all-pervading, also Swarupa Vyapti, and other Vaishnavas believe she is all-pervading through Guna Vyapti. Okay, so there are three energies, Shakti of Vishnu. Among them, that which is praised as the highest is verily Shri, and she is not different from the Lord. Okay, so that's interesting. Where does that come from? That statement. I'm not sure if it's saying that statement is coming from that may be also from Vishnu Purana. I'm not sure about that, okay, because it doesn't really say where that statement's coming from. But let's see, Vishnu, okay. We can look it up. All right. So, thus taught the great teacher Mahaprabhu Chaitanya to his disciples. Okay. So it may be that this is just Baldev's sloka here, that he's saying that Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is teaching that Shri is non-different from the Lord. We have to also look at the Sanskrit and have to see that, but it's not saying that it's quoted from any particular Shastra, as the Vishnu Purana sloka was there. So note, according to one view, Lakshmi is a Nitya Mukta Jiva, or a soul belonging to the class of the eternally free. Right. This is what I was saying, that according to one view, she can also pervade everything, but only through gunavyapti. Right. In that view, she cannot be said to be identical with Vishnu, because the people who say this, the Vaishnavas that say this, say that there can only be one God, and that God is all pervading, and all other sentient beings, sentient and non-sentient beings, are dependent upon him, and they are not all pervading. There can't be two all pervading beings, or there can't be two gods like that. So this is in the Vedanta, it's quite clear. So in that view, she cannot be said to be identical with Vishnu. But according to the teaching of Lord Gauranga, she is identical with Vishnu and never separate from him, according to this author. Okay. So, and as an authority, reference is made to the above verse of Vishnu Purana, which we just read, about all pervasiveness of Lakshmi, which I explained can be explained in several different ways. As regards to the statement that Lakshmi is separate from Vishnu, and that applies to the case of certain eternally free jivas overshadowed by the spirit of Lakshmi, and thus those jivas are called also Lakshmi. Okay, so what he's saying here is there might be some other jivas who have got the power of Lakshmi, or there might be a Shaktivesh avatar of Lakshmi, and so they are, whenever we find a statement where that they say Lakshmi is separate from Vishnu, for example, there might be some story in the Ramayana where there's a Maya Sita, and she's stolen away from Rama, and so she's separate. But she was Vedavati. She was another living being. She wasn't the original Lakshmi. So anyhow, they might also be called Lakshmi, but it is a secondary use of the word Lakshmi. So so what he's saying is the primary use of the word Lakshmi is for the original Sri Devi. Okay, primarily she is the highest aspect of Lord Vishnu himself, the great mother of the world, and not any jiva. Okay, according to Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Right. So, but what is the authority that Vishnu has three energies? The next verse answers that. So here's another verse from Shvetashvatara Upanishad 6.8. As regards Vishnu possessing three Shaktis or energies, we have the following statement in Shvetashvatara Upanishad 6.8. His high power is revealed as manifold and innate, the power of intelligence, Jnana Shakti, the power of strength, Bala Shakti, and the power of action, Kriya Shakti. Note, Jnana Shakti is called also Samvit, or consciousness. The Bala Shakti is called Sandhini, that which brings about the union of atoms. And the Kriya Shakti is called also Hladini, or the delight-giving power. All these powers are swabhaviki, or innate in the Lord, as the power of burning is innate in fire. So what he's saying is these are all internal powers of the Lord. Okay, so that's the Shvetashvatara Upanishad clearly delineates these three powers of the Lord, the Jnana, Bala, and Kriya Shaktis. Okay, so continuing on. He is the Lord of matter, pradhana, right? Pradhana usually refers to matter in the form before it's divided out into different elements in the Sankhya system of creation, which is followed by Vaishnava schools, right? And the conglomeration of material matter and of spirits. So the Lord he is the Lord. So the Lord is the Lord of matter and of spirits, meaning the jivas, Kshetragya, knower of the field, and he is the ruler of all gunas. Note, in the Vishnu Purana, it's mentioned that the highest energy of the Lord is called Parashakti, is not subordinate to time, but transcends it. And the Lord, though not separate from the highest energy, is yet said to be the Lord of Lakshmi, in a metaphorical sense only, as will be shown in subsequent verses. So I'm not quite sure what that's about. So now, again, he's quoting from Vishnu Purana, is thus mentioned. The Vishnu Shakti, right, the Shakti of the Lord, which we just heard was of three different types, is called Para. So the Apara Shakti is called Kshetragya, which deals with the Apara Shakti. So Para Shakti means the highest Shakti. Apara Shakti means not highest Shakti. is called Kshetragya, matter, in other words, matter. And the third Shakti is called Avidya and Karma, the energy found in matter. Oh, in other words, the divine energy of the Lord is called Parashakti. The energy found in the jivas, or the jivas or soul energy is Aparashakti. And the energy found in matter is called Avidya Shakti. Oh, okay. So I got it a little bit wrong there. Okay. So in the same Vishnu Purana 1944 is to be found the authority that Shri is the Parashakti, not separate from Vishnu. So those who, whose highest energy called the Parashakti is not within the scope of minutes and hours or under any other division of time, may that pure Hari be propitious to us. He who is called Paramesha, the Lord of the highest Lakshmi, Para, highest, Ma, meaning Lakshmi, Para Ma Isha. So Para means the highest, Ma means Lakshmi, and Isha means Lord, the Lord of the highest Lakshmi. Right. Who though pure and non-separate from the Parama, the highest energy, but is yet called figuratively the Lord of Parama. May that Vishnu, who is the self of all embodied beings, be propitious to us. This Parama or Parashakti is threefold, as it will be found in the very Vishnu Purana 11269. In the refuge of all exists this one power which is threefold, namely Hladini, bliss-giving, Sandini, existence-giving, or all-pervading and all-combining, and Samvit, or consciousness. In thee, devoid of all gunas or qualities, the energies of matter do not exist, such as the energy called sattva, causing pleasure, the energy of rajas causing pain, or the combined threefold gunas called maya. Vishnu is one indeed, and indeed one is also Lakshmi, his eternal consort. They become many because they assume various forms through their essential power. The Lord Vishnu, though a unity in reality, also becomes manifold, as we find in the Gopal Upanishad. Again, we don't know if it's Gopal Tapani, Uttar Tapani, or Purva Tapani, but one of them. So there is one ruler, all-pervading, the Lord Krishna, the adored of all, and though one shines forth as many, the wise who worship him as seated in the throne of the heart enjoy eternal happiness, but not so the others. The various forms of Vishnu are the avatars, like the fish, the tortoise, etc. As Vishnu, though one has many forms, similarly Lakshmi, though one has many forms, as we find in the following verses of Shvetashvatara Upanishad 6.8. His Parashakti is described as manifold. Note, Lakshmi, the Parashakti of Vishnu, appears as Janaki, Rukmini, etc. Janaki meaning Sita Devi, and Rukmini as the principal wife of Lord Krishna in Dwarka. Note, though every avatar, whether that of Vishnu or of Lakshmi, is ever full and has the whole of Vishnu or Lakshmi in it, yet some avatar is called complete and others partial, owing to the manifestation through it of all the attributes or only some of the attributes. Though every avatar is full without any distinction or difference, yet the distinction between one avatar and another is made on account of partial or full manifestations of the powers. As regards the fullness of all the avatars of Vishnu, we have the following text in Brihad Aranyaka Upanishad. And this is the famous Purnamana Purnamidam Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate, that the root of all avatars is full. This, the visible avatar, is also full. From that full, this full emanates. Taking away this full from that full, the full still remains behind. In the Mahavraha Purana, it is said, the bodies of the Supreme Self assumed as avatars are all everlasting and beginningless. They are free from increase and decrease and do not consist of prakritic matter. They are all forms of supreme bliss and intelligence and full of perfect attributes and free from all defects. Note, for a fuller description, see page 387 of the Vedanta Sutras, as every avatar of Vishnu is Purna, so also every avatar of Lakshmi. As regards the avatar of Lakshmi, we find it thus described in the Vishnu Purana 1.9, 140, and 141. One moment. As regards the avatar of Lakshmi, we find it thus described in the Vishnu Purana 1.9, 140, and 141. Paragraph 22. Now, as regards Sri, she also takes avatars corresponding to those of Vishnu, as in the Vishnu Purana 1.9, 140 to 145. And here is the translation. As this Lord of the world, the God of all gods, the punisher of all sinners, takes an avatar, so also does Sri, his helpmate, take an avatar corresponding to his. Thus, when Hari assumed the Aditya form, she came out of the lotus as Kamala. When he assumed the Bhargava avatar, Parshurama, she took the form of Dharani. When he became Raghava, Ramachandra, she became Sita. When he appeared as Krishna, she appeared as Rukmini. Similarly, in other avatars also, she is always the helpmate of Vishnu. When he assumes a Deva form, she takes the form of a Devi. When he appears as a man, she appears as a woman. Verily, she changes her body corresponding to the change assumed by the body of Vishnu. Thus, in the opinion of the wise, all avatars are essentially non-different, and every one of them is perfect and full. Paragraph 23. Still, there's a distinction between these avatars when viewed from the outside. As regards this apparent difference in the avatars of Vishnu we have in the Bhagavad Purana, these avatars are the partial manifestations of the Supreme Person, but the Lord Sri Krishna is the Bhagavan himself. Hari himself became the 8th child of Devaki. As regards the avatar of Lakshmi, we have it stated in the Atharva Upanishad that there is a difference in her avatars also, beginning with in the region of Mathura called Gokula, etc. The text goes on to say the two sides of Vishnu are Chandravali and Radhika, and then it mentions the lower avatars by saying Lakshmi, Durga, and the rest are her partial avatars. Similarly, in Gautamiya Tantra, we have Radhika is said to be the highest deity, the goddess full of Krishna. All Lakshmis are her avatars. She is their source. She is full of all prosperity and every beauty, and is the enchanter of all. Paragraph 25. The abode of Vishnu is also eternal. The word Adi is in the phrase Nitya Lakshmi Adi Matvat shows that the abode of Vishnu is also eternal. Thus, in the Chandogya Upanishad 7:24:1, it's stated, in whom does he abide? In his own glory. So also in the Mundaka Upanishad 2:2:7, it is stated, in the divine city, in the great void, abides this self. So also in the Rig Veda 1:154:6, we have the following. Ta, them, va, for the sake of you two, namely Radhika and Krishna, Vastuni, houses, Gamadhyai, to reach the goal, for the going of you two, Ugmasai, we desire, Yatra, where, Gavaha, cows, Buri, Shringaha, long-horned, Ayasha, exist or go about, or exist giving prosperity, Atra, there, Aha, verily, Tat, that, Urga Yashya, widely praised, Vrishnaha, of the bull, of Vishnu, the shower of every desire, Paramam, sublimest, Padam, abode, Avabhati, shines, Bhuri, much. Fain would we go unto your dwelling places, where there are many horned and nimble oxen. For mighty there shineth down upon us the wide striding Vishnu's sublimest mansion. We desire to go to those abodes of you two, where there are many long horned cows and oxen, and where brightly shines the supreme abode of that widely praised showerer of all prosperity. Paragraph 26. So also in the Gopaltapani Upanishad it is thus written, among these 7 cities, Mathura, the city of Gopala, is verily Brahman, as Brahman, as if made visible. So also in the Jitanta Stotra, it is written, the region called Vaikuntha, adorned with the divine 6 attributes, but devoid of the 3 attributes of matter, is not to be reached by the ungodly. It is full of those persons who are devoted to the 5 duties, abhigamana, upadana, ija, adhyayana, and samadhi. So in Pancharatra and also in other sampradayas, they talk about these 5 daily duties of Vaishnava: abhigamana, upadana. So abhigamana means getting up and getting ready for worshiping the Lord. Upadana, collecting the materials for doing it. Actually, worshiping the Lord is called ija. Adhyayana is called study of the scriptures. And samadhi or yoga is meditation on the Lord up till the time of taking rest. So these are 5 daily duties. Who are eternally perfect and devoted to the Lord. So who are eternally okay, so there are many courtyards and palaces in that divine city, and many an auspicious forest, garden, well, tank, trees, and the rest. Devas constantly worship this non-prakritic or completely spiritual city, which is Brahman itself, and which is refulgent with the light of a myriad of suns. So also in the Brahma Samhita, it said, the great abode of the Lord, called Gokula, is a 1,000-petal lotus. In the middle of these petals is the abode of the Lord, and which is manifested by his aspect called Ananta or Shankarshana. Paragraph 27. Note, how is it that the abode of Hari, which is beyond the sphere of Prakriti or material nature, is identified here with Mathura, an earthly city? How can this Mathura be the undecaying city of the Lord? This doubt is answered in the next 2 verses. The Supreme Lord brings down on this earth his divine city, which is his own self, and then manifests himself in that city. And this is the meaning of the phrase, Mathura is Brahman itself. As the ignorant imagine the Lord Govinda, who is pure existence, intelligence, and bliss, to be a man, and to have assumed really the form of a human child, similarly, Mathura, the abode of the Lord, is considered by the ignorant to be an earthly city, while it is really the abode of the Lord. Paragraph 28. Now the eternal sportiveness of the Lord is being described. In the Brihad Aranyaka Upanishad, it is said, he who is the past, the present, and the future, and whose work or lila, meaning sport, is eternal. The one God immersed in eternal sport, pervading all his bhaktas, remains in their hearts as their very self. And also in the Shritis, Bhagavad Gita 4:9, he says, he who has known my divine birth and action in its essence, having abandoned the body, cometh not to birth again, but cometh unto me, O Arjuna. Paragraph 29. Admitted that the sport of the Lord is eternal, as proved by the text quoted above. But how do you support this theory? By reason. Every work and action presupposes a point of time when it springs. The duration, though, through which it lasts, and the point of time when it comes to an end. How can any action then be called eternal? Anything which has the beginning and an end is temporary. The answer to this objection is given in the next verse. Since the forms of the Lord are infinite, since the companions of the Lord are also infinite, and since his abodes are also infinite, it follows necessarily that every act of the Lord must be eternal, because it is non-different from these. This is the opinion of those who know the truth. Since the Lord has infinity of forms, any act done by one form is repeated in succession by other forms, and thus the action becomes eternal. Because in the infinite succession of forms, the action is being repeated in some place or other by some of these forms. Since all the avatars of the Lord are identical and non-different, the drama enacted by one avatar is repeated by all the others. In the infinite succession of avatars, the act must be also infinite. Some vague conception of the eternal activity of the Lord and the existence through eternity of every act of the Lord done in any incarnation, such as playing with the cowherds of Mathura or preaching to the fishermen of Galilee, that's interesting, must also be eternal, right? An allusion by the author here to Jesus. Okay. So the rays of light carry so any picture, must be eternal, can be understood from the behavior of light rays. Any picture in light is theoretically eternal. The rays of light carry the picture forever and ever to the infinite depths of space. Thus, the picture of Delhi coronation Darbar, where the king and queen of England came and were coronated in Delhi, I guess. Even today, in the rays of light, which are carrying that picture into space, when this is, scientifically, of course, that's a fact that the light expands off, forever in space. So a little mathematical calculation will tell one that at what particular point in space that picture will be found today. Thus ends the first proposition, namely that the Lord is the Most High and Supreme. I wanted to show you that I also found a very nice website where it shows the Tattvavada's version, the Madhva version of these Prameyas, right? And I will send you the link and you can have a look at this, right? So Tattvavada's Prameyas, because Baldev's Prameyas, Baldev being a Madhva when he grew up as a Madhva and then he converted to becoming a Vaishnava, right? So it's saying, if you're unfamiliar with Vedanta, please consider reading Dvaita Facts, right? To get some background. The appendix should help if you need to look up meaning of specific words. So they've got also a Kannada lecture here, if you know Kannada. So the introduction is the actual Prameya sloka, right? The Prameya sloka. And there, so did we go to the Prameya sloka? Here's the Prameya sloka. The Prameya sloka. So introduction. The word Prameya may be defined in accordance with the meaning given to it by Sri Jayatirtha as the subject of exact knowledge. All knowledge involves three entities: the subject, the knower, and the knowledge itself. If the knowledge is exact, then these are called the Prameya, or the Pramata, or Pramatri, and Prama, respectively. Knowledge itself can be of three kinds: Yatartha Jnana, or exact knowledge, Samshaya Jnana, or doubtful knowledge, and Viparyaya Jnana, or incorrect knowledge. Thus, exact knowledge is that which precludes the presence of doubt or incorrect understanding. However, it is not necessary for knowledge to be complete in all respects for it to be considered exact. Knowledge may be considered exact to whatever extent it is present, even if the subject of the knowledge is not known to the fullest extent. The shloka by Sri Vyasatirtha lays out 9 important tenets, all seemingly simple on the surface, but having a world of depth as the Prameyas of Tattvavada. These Prameyas are consistent among themselves and are complete in defining Tattvavada. Thus, they give a coherent and unique definition of the whole doctrine. It is very consistent. It is very characteristic of Sri Vyasatirtha to have digested the whole of the corpus of a large number of commentaries, original texts, glosses, etc., and presented a very pithy and yet easy to understand statement of the doctrine as presented in all of them. In reading and analyzing the sloka that explains the Prameyas, one finds a faithful echo in many of Srimad Anandatirtha's own statements. Sri Vyasatirtha compromises neither the nature nor the intensity of his master's unequivocal assertions. His Prameya sloka is thus a faithful recap of the subjects expounded upon by the previous scholars in the tradition, and it may be asserted that a correct understanding of the sloka is equivalent to the grasp of fundamental tenets of Tattvavada. And here is the Prameya sloka. The sloka that lays out the 9 Prameyas is Shriman Madhvamate Hari Paratara Satyam Jagat Tattvato Bedo Jivagna Hariranuchara Nichocha Bhagavan Gata Muktir Naija Sukhanubhuti Ramala Bhaktishcha Tat Sadhanam Hyakshadirithayam Pramanakila Nayayika Vedyo Hari. So it may be split up like this. In Sriman Madhva's doctrine, Hari is supreme. Hari, Vishnu, is supreme. The world is true, real. The differences are real. The classes of souls are cohorts of Hari and reach different ultimate states. Mukti, liberation, is the experience of the joy of one's own nature. That is achieved by flawless devotion and correct understanding. Pratyaksha, etc., Pratyaksha Anumana Shabda, etc., are indeed the sources of knowledge. Hari alone is praised in all the Vedas. The first Prameya. So here he's got the first Prameya. So we read the first Prameya of Baladev Vidyabhushana. So we should go through the first Prameya here, the first Prameya of Vyasatirtha, and see how they are the same. So basically, Baladev said the same thing. Hari, Vishnu is supreme. So, but there is really a lot more complexity than just a simple statement that Vishnu is supreme. Notice in particular that the statement Hari Parataraha, rather than Hari Paraha or Harihi Paramaha, Parataraha can be interpreted in several ways. For instance, that the indicated Vishnu is superior even to the exalted, that is, that there is a gradation amongst entities other than Vishnu, and he is completely above even the highest of them. That Vishnu is superior even to those who have reached liberation, that is to say, Vishnu is superior to not only all other souls in this world, the unliberated ones, but also to all souls, right, that attain liberation. This also implies that no one merges within him upon liberation as a state of superiority does not make sense if such a merger takes place. That Vishnu is incomparably superior in all respects with respect to oneself and others. He is not just superior by a slight margin, but is comprehensively so in every possible respect. How so? As Srimad Anandatirtha, Madhvacharya, says, Narayana, who is an ocean of complete virtues, who causes the rise, sustenance, and fall of the universe, who gives knowledge and joy and suffering respectively to the good and the evil, who is a benevolent cause and is completely beyond comprehension, him I salute over and over. Thus, in all these respects, Vishnu, Narayana, is completely beyond oneself and others. Authorities in support of these are many. For instance, in the Bhagavad Gita, chapter 15 says, there are 2 types of sentience in the universe, the destructible and indestructible. All creatures are destructible, like the anvil-like is called indestructible, while the anvil-like is called indestructible. The Supreme Being is different from both the previous and is thus called Paramatma. Parama, Atma, the supreme or sentient or the supreme soul, he who invades all three worlds and sustains them, though himself unchanging, is Ishvara, or the Lord. Because I, Krishna, am beyond the destructible and am also superior to the indestructible, thus am I called in the world and in the Vedas as Purushottama, supreme being. In his commentary upon Bhagavad Gita and in other places as well, Srimad Ananta Tirtha says that the Kutashta refers to Lakshmi, the consort of Vishnu, who is Abhimani, controller of all nature. Thus, she is like a changeless anvil which supports change in others, is in being herself changeless, but supporting all of the nature of that is ever changing. Thus, Krishna is saying that there are two kinds of entities in the universe. One, the destructible, which includes all creatures, and the second, the anvil-like Lakshmi, who sustains all nature without suffering change. He, the Lord Vishnu, is different from both and is thus called Paramatma. He who inhabits all three worlds and sustains them without suffering the changes and other travails of the universe is called Ishvara, or the Lord. So the one thing that we can see here that differs between Baladev's idea and Vyasatirtha and Madhva's idea of this Prameya is that in Baladev's, he says that Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu considers Lakshmi and Vishnu to be equal. Here, Madhva doesn't consider Lakshmi to be equal. He does consider her to be eternally unchanging, and to not be touched by any suffering. And in fact, in another book by Madhva, directly called Tattva Sankhya, Madhva says, I'm going to tell you about I'm going to enumerate the tattvas, the different principles. So there's God, the principle of God or Ishvara, right? That is Lord Hari, and the principle of everything else. And everything else is, God is Swatantra, he's completely independent. Everything else is dependent upon him. So out of the dependence, there are sentience and non-sentience. So the sentience, out of the sentient beings, there's Lakshmi, and then there's the rest. Lakshmi is different from the rest in that she is never touched by sorrow. She has never been touched by sorrow, right? Whereas all other sentients, apparently, according to Madhva, have been touched by sorrow. So it seems like Madhvas don't believe that there were always eternal servants of the Lord in Vaikuntha, but all of them had to come from this material world and become liberated. They all were touched by sorrow at some point, but Lakshmi wasn't. So this is why he says here, Lakshmi, who sustains all nature without suffering change. She is still dependent upon the Lord. So she is not the Lord, but she falls into the category of Paratantra, those which are dependent upon the Lord. So that includes material nature and also all of the Jivatmans. So she is a great, great sentient being, and she's dependent on the Lord. She's a servant of the Lord. She's the wife and consort of the Lord, but she's not equal to the Lord, as is said in Gaudiya Vaishnavism. So here we can see that there's this difference in the first Prameya between Gaudiya Vaishnavism and Madhvism. So we can continue on like that, looking at Baldev and then looking at how he takes the 9 Prameyas of Vyasatirtha and how he interprets them for himself as a Gaudiya.
Om Namo